Okay, folks, we're here to put the lid on the lid, the top on the lid, however you say it. And this all came out real good when we cut the lid box in half. I've still got that one mark on here so that and it happens to be at the spot where these things are slightly out of line, less than 1/1000th of an inch. It's probably not even more than I probably should just sand it, but I'm going to run it through the planer at some point if that works out. But anyway, this lid's going to come off, hinge one side or the other, and now this top fully flocked and ready to go. And I've sanded down the sides of this flock of this MDF where the flock meets that, and so it's a nice and square fit. And I do have a mark on this one. Honestly, I forgot to mark it because the mark worm was on the MDF side, and I painted over that. But I put a pencil mark right here on this side to match up with that one right there, only because I played around with it and made sure I could fit it correctly that way, and it fit just fine that way. So this lid will now go down in that box in a fairly interference fit. All right, now all four corners are in like that. So there's the bottom of the bottom of the lid showing just like that. And I've got way too much reveal. I'm going to push this down quite a bit for the reveal that I want when I get ready to do that. Because right now there's about 1/8 of an inch of MDF showing up on the side. Right where you see the end of that chamfer is where the MDF starts. And so let me see if I can get my knife out to show you where that is on here through the GoPro. Make sure that GoPro is recording. Is the GoPro recording? Testing 1, 2. Okay, the GoPro wasn't recording, but it is now. So anyway, right here, you can see at the corner of the chamfer, this is where the MDF starts. And it's in the box a little bit, but it's got to keep going in until all of that MDF disappears, which means I've got to press it down. And I don't want to do it now dry because I would have to press too hard and worry about damaging that flocking. I've already put a thumbprint in here, but I think I've brushed it out. It's fairly imprisoned because I was holding it tight. I should have done that. But anyway, and I do have that corner. I haven't sanded it yet, but I do have this one corner that was broken out, filled with wood filler. And just looking at it from here, I can't even tell that it's there. I can if I look close, and since I know where it is, but once I've sanded it smooth, it will blend in just fine. So I think what I'm going to do is when I get ready to glue this thing up, I'm going to be pressing this lid down from like this. From once I get it in there. So what I want to do is build a gauge of some sort to make sure that we get this thing on there just right. And I think I may have a piece of wood that'll work for that gauge. Of course, this spalted wood would work. No, that's actually too thick because I did plane that spalted wood down a little bit. Let me see if I've got anything else. I'll be back. I may have to stop that and come back to you. This is the piece that we used to, when we sawed down the box in half, this is the piece we used to kind of hold that blade. So let me see which is the... Dare I push this down enough to where it sure would be nice if I didn't have to worry about that at all, where this gauge would just automatically do it. The gauge is not quite thick enough. Okay, consider this on pause for a moment until I go cut a block of wood that will fit this. But before I do that, let me measure, because I found a spot that looks good. So I'm going to take this little square, and there's some reveal right here that looks almost perfect. And so I will go right here, and that tells me how wide that box, that thing needs to be. And it looks like, believe it or not, 9/64, which is about a little over 1/8 of an inch, a 64th over 1/8 of an inch is what that is. So 9/64. And let me go cut a strip. We've done this thin rip thing, but I'll be back. I'll find a gauge block for 9/64. Oh, I've got 5:30 seconds. Let me see if that'll fit. That'll work just fine. Okay, 2/2, and so when I set it down, I will set it down on those blocks where this goes all the way down and touches the blocks, and the top goes all the way down and touches this, and that will be the perfect reveal when I'm done. So now the time is here to push out that piece. That's too big. Let me find a different piece. I'm looking for something that can push on that. Let me cut this off a little bit, and that'll work just fine. I'm going to use this to push that out like that. And I'm going to use my air gun to blow any dust off there, because that's bugging the stew out of me. I did that very gently, and now is the time to do the glue up. And I think that I'll use the vise, and the GoPro can be right here. Let me make sure the GoPro sees that. Yeah, it just does. Okay, so we can put the glue on, and I've got to avoid the flock side. I mean, this has got to be a perfect strip of glue. And I'm using my finger as a gauge to hold it away from there. And then I don't think there's anything better than a finger to spread glue, even though you do have to clean up after yourself a little bit. And in this particular case, I've got to hurry, because I got 4 sides to do before I can even start gluing together. So that's one side. You have to hold your mouth right when you're doing stuff like this. I've always been teased about that. Okay. Very lightly clamping there. And normally I would like to wet the other side of the joint a little bit with glue. But I don't think I'm going to have the time to do that. And I just hope it doesn't cause any problems. I've done this before, and the top is stuck good. I actually have an option. I could put a few headless pin nails, which are 23 gauge type nails, and they are quite invisible unless you know they're there. And this is going to have some glue squeeze out up next to the top. All right, the one is down at this end right here, and this is the top. So I'm going to start at the one, which is right here on this end, and begin by dropping this in there. Hopefully no glue comes out on the flocking side. That went in, I had to kind of hurry because it was slipping out of my hands. The glue was so slippery, so I had to get the job done. Now I'm ready to turn this over. I don't see hardly any glue, what do you call it? Squeeze out on the glue yet. But if I just put some weight on this thing, gosh, that went fast. That was such a good idea to put those gauge blocks down there as opposed to having to eyeball it all the way around. Now you see glue squeeze out on the top here, and that's, I'll wipe that off once it sets. But I really don't want to disturb anything. In other words, leave a good thing alone. And you can see it, the glue squeezed out on these blocks too. But here's the good news. Not a drop of glue anywhere. There's a tiny, tiny, tiny amount right here. But when it dries, it'll be clear and you won't even know it's there. So the inside, that's what I realized was by pressing it down from the top, any glue that's in there is coming off the edges of the top, or of this top, this way, because it's being pushed down and wiped off. But there's still enough glue left on the sides, and it's enough of an interference fit all the way around to where it's going to be tight. And so now that's it. I believe that's it for this video. Is there anything else I was going to do? I might as well clean that up a little bit while I'm here. Let me grab this right here. Well, all right. Actually, I'd rather know where the glue is rather than spread it, because here's why. I'm going to be finishing this with this linseed oil, and if I leave the slightest amount of glue in the pores of this wood without removing it and sanding it off, the oil won't take into that spot, and it'll look like a weird spot that is a different color because it didn't absorb into that spot. The glue makes it appear to be well, it makes it impervious to oil absorption. That's why you can't have any glue. but I just thought better of it. I'm going to go ahead and wipe off as much as I can. I'm not letting it, I'm not pressing on the top at all because I don't want it going down any further, but I am trying to get all the way into the corner with this thing. And while I'm talking to you, I'm thinking about what I'm going to use to kind of scrape that glue off as opposed to wiping it off. Once I get it all wiped off, I want to just use some kind of tool to scrape whatever remaining glue might be there. And I got glue off of every side on here, which stands to reason because of the interference fit. All right, one more time on this corner. This is where I started. Now, I could use a knife. Ooh. I got a little bit of glue on the end of that knife. Or let me try this. This is I've shown you this before in another video. It's a carbide tipped, let me show you on the GoPro. It's a carbide tipped, very sharp cutter blade that's got 3 edges. You actually have a 4th one here. You can unscrew the screw and spin it around when it gets a little dull. But I use all sides of this, and you push this away and it cuts the glue away. And so I'm going to see what happens if I'm going to pull first. I'm feeling something. It's not much. I mean, I can feel the glue. Let me make a stronger angle here. Yep, there's some more glue. So I think this is going to be the trick. It's scraping, and that glue is already starting to set up a little bit in terms of getting. It starts got liquid, and then it gets gummy. And it's in the gummy stage right now, and then it gets plasticky, kind of like hot plastic, but it's not hot. And then it gets hard as a rock eventually after 24 hours. But it's after 6 minutes, you can pick the piece up and it's not going anywhere as long as you don't put any undue pressure on there. I am pretty happy with the way this is working because this is going to save the finish, I think. We'll see. We may see some residual probably, but I don't think anybody, I know my grandchildren won't notice it, but maybe another fine woodworker would notice it. As if I'm a fine woodworker. I do pride myself on the quality and craftsmanship, but it's all an aspiration. It's not an attainment. I aspire to be a quality, fine woodworker, but whether I get there before I finish these videos or whatever. Of course, practice makes perfect. So the more I do, maybe the better I get. One of the biggest problems is you got to learn from your mistakes, but then you got to remember what your mistakes were so that you don't do it again. Learning means remembering and just having a knowledge of it. And I can tell so many times that I make that I am doing something right because I've experienced it before. And that's good. But then there's still stupid mistakes, even ones that I've made before. And that's when you go, good grief, what is wrong with me? And I realize we're all human. We're all frail and fragile. I'll tell you one thing. I've been to the doctor several times recently for urinary problems. I got great prostate numbers. I'm not worried about prostate cancer or anything like that, but having to get up several times a night, they've got me on some good medicines. But I look at those charts, and I've been to the ear doctor to work on this ear and get things with that. I've had my annual checkup recently, and by and large, I'm in pretty good health. I've got some arthritis issues and some vertigo issues and things like that, and then, you know, the typical things. But I'm blessed by and large with good health, and I've got a real good attitude about what problems still do ail me. But the point is, I've been inside these doctors' offices a lot, and I see these charts of all the internals, you know, the internals of the ear and how it works, and all the little hairs and the three loops that carry the balance of the organ of balance inside your ear, and it's all tiny as it can be. And then they got the cochlea, which is the funnel, spiral funnel that has the fluids in it, and it has the air in it, and the tympanium pushes in and out, and as it pushes in and out, it's making those hair follicles, which are tiny, 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 flow back and forth, and that sends nerve signals to your brain, which somehow or another figures it out as hearing, and that's your auditory thing. And then the balance thing, when those canals, those loops, the fluid flows in there, it lets you know positionally where your head is at any point in time. And it you know, to see these athletes and people that can, you know, skateboard and balance so well, it just totally amazes me seeing all that. And it's a marvel of God's creation that he can do that, or that our bodies can do that, and the healing in our bodies and everything. And even when stuff doesn't work, you're amazed at what still does, you know. And I mean, one of these days, we're all fallen human beings. We're all headed towards, what does it say in the Bible? It's appointed to man once to die, but after that, the judgment. And we're all going to die. We're all have a fatal illness, and it's called life. We're going to die unless Jesus comes again. And then maybe we get translated up into heaven, taken away. But the way things are going, I don't doubt that it's going to happen. But anyway, I'm done with this. This thing, I've gone all the way around it as I was pontificating there. And I believe it'll take a finish exactly like it is. I may go around it one more time after I turn this camera off. But folks, that is progress on this box right here. This lid. Yep, that's the way it goes. I've got my marks on there to show the way it goes. So, I mean, when you hold it like this, you cannot see where that edge is until you open it up and look at it. I got to make sure I got the right kind of hinges and the right kind of hasp. I've got some hasp I know that'll work fine. It's the hinge, and I'm not going to put a lock on this box anymore. Lose the key on the tiny little padlock, and I think they finally probably had to cut it off. But grandson number one, and would lose the key. It was just better just having a hasp on there. and not worrying about somebody getting into your treasures and so forth. It would only be your brother that did that, or it'd only be your sister, the little baby sister they've got on the way, that would sneak in and get in your box. You just have to put it in hide it in a spot where people can't get to it. What am I saying? Folks, thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like, click the bell to be notified, make comments. I'll read them, I'll respond to them, and share the videos with others. And talk to you later.